Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Centerville City Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Monday, May 28th, 2024. Ms. Sauber, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl.
Here.
Dr. Graff.
Here.
Dr. Rohr.
Here.
Megan Sparks.
Here.
Mrs. Dernbaugh.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Ms. Sauber, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl.
Yes.
Dr. Graff.
Yes.
Dr. Rohr.
Yes.
Megan Sparks.
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh.
Yes. First up is honors. Mr. Wissing.
So good evening, everyone. It's always an exciting night to be able to recognize some of our staff that have decided to retire and leave the district. And so we had a reception for them this evening. But now it's an honor for me to be able to recognize all of our retirees tonight that are in attendance. First of all, I just want to send out a few thank yous. We had our CHS Jazz Combo here tonight performing some music for us. It was a great event for them, so I appreciate them being here. School's out and performing for us this evening. I also want to say a special thank you to Stacy Jeffries, who's the business office secretary. She's been doing a lot of double duty over the last couple months. Really helped with the cupcakes and reception and that portion of tonight. And I also want to thank Sarah Swan, who's kind of put everything together behind the scenes. So without those two, I'd be really behind in being prepared tonight. So I really appreciate their efforts. So again, good evening. We're proud to honor and celebrate a number of remarkable educators who have dedicated their time, energy, and passion to empower, challenge, and support countless students over the years. Not only have they imparted knowledge, but they've also inspired, mentored, and guided these students, laying the foundation for their future success. So I'm excited to announce our retirees and do the introduction. And first off, I'd like for Franca Juth to please come forward. So a little bit about Franca. She's been a dedicated and valued employee with our Student Nutrition Services Department for the last 21 years. She's has always greeted her colleagues with a smiling face and a helping hand. All those who have had the pleasure of working with Franca would speak very highly of her unwavering, positive attitude and dedication to her work. Franca will be sincerely missed, and we wish her all the very best in much-deserved retirement. So congratulations, Franca. Next is Wendy Directs. And as Wendy's walking up, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about Wendy. She's retiring after teaching middle school English language arts for the past 15 years. She said, "There are many things to love about Centerville schools, and that is hard to just pick one thing to think about." To quote Wendy, from start to finish, it has been a privilege and an honor to work with a group of kind, caring people toward a common purpose, educating young people to achieve their full potential. Recently, 3 former students came back to visit just to say hello, which is truly one of her favorite parts of teaching. More than just having graduated from college, these 3 young people are on their way to futures in aerospace engineering, medicine, and biomedical engineering. If this is our future, I can retire feeling I have played a small part in knowing that they are very good hands, and congratulations to you and your success with us. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Next is Carol Henry. Please come forward. Carol says there's no place like Centerville and PVS. She has been teaching for 36 years, with 25 of those years here in the district. She absolutely loves her job as a kindergarten teacher, as well as the people she works with, adding that they are more than just coworkers, they are friends and family. We wish you all the very best in retirement. Congratulations, Carol. John Kennard. So John has been a bus driver for Centerville City Schools for the past 18 years. He said he is pleased that his 3 children attended Centerville schools and now have successfully moved on in their lives and careers. As a bus driver, John has been fortunate to drive in the same neighborhoods for the majority of his career in the district. He's been able to establish relationships with families with multiple siblings who often still recognize him and say hi long after their last ride. So congratulations, John, and thank you for your service as a driver. Lori Coles. Lori is a family consumer science teacher here at Centerville High School and has been an educator for 25 years. Lori said the best part of her school community is the teachers and staff that she has worked with, adding that the collaboration of these friends have made her a better teacher. She's enjoyed the classes she's had, the opportunity to teach, and she said that teaching students important life skills has been a very rewarding experience for her. So again, congratulations and best of wishes, Lori. Yeah, absolutely. Debbie Priest. Debbie is a Spanish teacher here at the high school. She was first hired as a long-term sub at Magzik to cover Stacy Westendorf, who is now stepping out of the shoes of being the principal at Magzik. Stacy, who took over for Pam Witzman, who had surgery. Stacy eventually was hired to replace Mrs. Witzman, and Debbie was hired as the full-time Spanish teacher. Now we've come full circle because next year Stacy will replace Debbie here as a Spanish teacher at CHS, where she's been here for over the past 21 years. Debbie has taught in all 3 of our middle schools and at the high school, learning so much and being stretched far beyond her talents, what she thought she could ever do as a teacher. She is thankful for the support and encouragement of every principal under whom she has worked, and both of her children, Ben and Rachel, graduated from CHS. Debbie would like to express her profound gratitude for everything that Centerville has given her and her family. When she moved here, she did not have the intention to go back to teaching, and now looking back, she is very appreciative of the opportunity that was given to her. Debbie says she's been truly blessed to be a part of Centerville City Schools, and we have been blessed to return. So congratulations. Sheila Reynolds. Sheila is retiring after 40-plus years in education, 36 of those years right here in Centerville City Schools, where she served as band director at Watts Middle School and as an assistant director at CHS. She said it is overwhelming to think of the many students she has taught and the lifelong friendships established with colleagues in every building, with a special shout out to her middle school and high school band team, Jennifer Deaton and Brian Miller. So if you don't know, Brian Miller is the principal at Watts, Jennifer Deaton's the secretary, so that's a pretty huge shout out for them. That's awesome. Her favorite memories are the many unique concerts, tours, and performance trips out of state, as they are always displays of the accomplishments of her students' work, perseverance, time, talent, and dedication. As a Centerville High School graduate and once again a resident of our community, she feels her career has come full circle with Centerville City Schools. We wish you the very best in the future, and congratulations. Sherry Schumann. The next teacher I'd like to introduce is Sherry Schumann. Sherry is a math teacher at Centerville High School. She's taught for 34 years, with 24 of those in Centerville City Schools. Sherry's helped students with expanding their math knowledge and hopefully their hearts by knowing she cares about them. She said the students have helped her stay young by teaching her things like the latest dance moves or some hip hop phrases. Congratulations, Sherry. Thank you. Jim Spears. Jim is retiring as the PE teacher at Weller Elementary. He has been a teacher for 34 years, with 27 of those years with Centerville City Schools. One of Jim's favorite memories is when he taught adaptive PE. He remembers taking CHS students and their peer tutors down to UD for swimming at their new Rexplex complex many times over the last few years. So congratulations, Jim, and we appreciate your service. And last but not least, we're going alphabetically, Jeannie Wall. Jeannie is retiring after 16 years in the district. She worked as an administrative assistant at the School of Possibilities, a data processing secretary at CHS, and she has been a clerical aide at Weller for the last 10 years. At the beginning of her career, she worked with a student at the School of Possibilities who had a tough home life, and she tried to give him encouragement and help him look forward to the future. She said she will never forget when he told her it would bother him more to disappoint Mrs. Wall than his mother. That made her feel like she could really make an impact and encouraged her to continue working with kids. And you had to work with me as an administrator too. So congratulations, Jeannie. Appreciate everything. So just want to say thanks again to all of our folks to recognize tonight in the retirement. We wish you the best of luck in the future. We're going to take a short recess so we can have everyone come up here. We're going to stand and do a photo. And as we do a photo, we'll regroup the meeting, give you a chance to leave if you want to leave, or you can always stay and hang out for the rest of the board meeting tonight. So we'll just take a short recess to get a picture. Thank you.
While everybody is mingling and wrapping things up, I'll go ahead and move on. The next part of the agenda is our public participation. The Board of Education recognizes the value to school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. The presiding officer of each board meeting at which public participation is permitted shall administer the following rules of the board as printed in the agenda. And it looks like we have two speakers this evening. Paul is first.
Good evening, Paul Sefcik from Washington Township, Hither Green Drive. I recently reviewed the 2021 Levin Porter Facilities Assessment Report, and I was shocked by what I read. And no, it wasn't the 1 to 5 year projected repair cost exceeding $35.6 million, or the reality that those repairs have jumped to $38.3 million due to the compounded inflation of 2022 and 23, or that the projected inflation rate of 2.4% will increase that number to $39.2 million in 2024. My shock was learning that only 3 schools in the district are 100% protected by fire suppression system overhead sprinklers. Of the remaining buildings, fire suppression protection varies from 0 to a maximum of 38% coverage. Additionally, not all rooms in our schools have fire alarm signal devices. For example, Primary Village North has 15 rooms without a fire alarm signal. The Dr. John Hole building has a fire alarm system that is no longer supported by the vendor. Replacement parts have to be sourced from third-party vendors. Klein Elementary was identified as having an obsolete fire alarm system. Not one building in our facilities complies with the 2017 OBC rules governing fire alarm systems. This can be explained by referencing the fire codes that were in effect when the buildings were constructed. What cannot be explained is the unwillingness of successive school boards to address the lack of fire suppression capability during any of the 22 upgrades to our school buildings. Multiple fire drills are held at all of our schools, but exiting a classroom into clean air, a well-lighted hallway, and an unobstructed exit is not the same as exiting under duress. The majority of our underprotected buildings are housing our youngest students. There is no excuse for not upgrading the fire suppression systems, fire alarm systems, and alarm notification systems in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Nick and Lisa Bowman.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening. You might remember myself and my wife Lisa. We spoke at the last meeting, and we wanted to come back and personally thank you for not making the drastic changes to the special education program for the next school year. So we feel like without these changes that the non-typical students and typical students will thrive alike. And it was a huge relief, not only for my wife and I and our family, but for the special needs community as a whole. And we wanted to thank Mr. Wesney for hearing our concerns, listening to us. Becky Furby, thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and also the board for hearing our concerns and addressing them in a quick fashion. So we really appreciate your willingness to not make those changes and continue on with the program as it is. My wife and I will continue to support this wonderful community, the City of Centerville School District. We look forward to continued collaboration, partnership, open communication, especially with our special needs program and parents, as we are a sensitive group, and we welcome any and all communication that we can. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you guys and everything that you do. Have a great evening. Thank you.
All right, next up is the legislative report with Mrs. Sparks.
Long tonight. So last week, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed House Bill 250. The new law will require every school district in Ohio to establish an official policy governing cell phone usage during school hours and seeks to minimize student use of cell phones in K through 12. The Senate passed Senate Bill 208 by a vote of 31-0. This bill would require a district to include in its open enrollment policy an exception for military children. Senate Bill 208 now heads to the House for consideration, and I know this is kind of a hot topic bill, so I have a copy for each of you at your desk to look at. The Senate Finance Committee heard sponsor testimony on Senate Bill 182. This bill would establish the Foster to College Scholarship Program and require the Department of Education and Workforce to hire a full-time foster care liaison. In the 2022-2023 school year, Ohio had 16,519 students in foster care. The Senate Education Committee heard interested party testimony on Senate Bill 219. This bill would make changes to the educator license grade bands. The committee accepted a technical amendment to the bill. They also heard hearing on House Bill 147. This bill would make changes regarding teacher licensure revocation and teacher hiring practices. The House Primary and Secondary Committee heard a proponent testimony on House Bill 407. Some of the highlights from that bill are: it would establish new reporting requirements for charter non-public schools that enroll students participating in a general scholarship program. It would require the Department of Education and Workforce to issue a state report card for qualifying charter non-public schools that enroll general scholarship students and to report other specified students' performance and family adjustment gross income data. It would establish or modify reporting requirements regarding EdChoice scholarship program for charter non-public schools and the ODEW. And finally, would require each public and chartered non-public school to maintain student disciplinary records and to transmit a transfer student disciplinary records with student school reports upon request of the student's new school. And that is the end of the report. Thank you.
Next up is student board reps.
This time of year is bittersweet as we say goodbye to 3 of our current Board of Education student representatives. These students worked hard not only to make our high school better, but also high schools around the state. Their hard work and dedication had made a great impact. And if I could take back their diploma and have them stay longer, I would. We would, both of us. All of us appreciate all that you have done, and we will miss all of you. At this time, I would like to invite each of you up to say a few words. Starting with Thomas, and I'll hand you your little.
I'm Thomas. I'm sure you guys know me by now. This is my last meeting, and so after this, I'm going to be going to Ohio State to study marketing and Spanish. And my favorite memory as a board rep was presenting at the OSBA meeting last week.
Hi guys, my name's Ashita, as you know. Next year I'm going to be attending Indiana University Kelley School of Business to major in business. And my favorite memory from this year was getting to interact with all the faces that I don't typically see in a normal school day and kind of develop a relationship and get closer with the kids that attend the school.
Hi, I'm Kate. I am going to the Ohio State University to study physics in their honors program. I really appreciated the opportunity to see, like Ashita said, the student body that I normally wouldn't get to interact with, as well as just seeing how you guys influence the school system in a way that I wouldn't have known without this experience. So thank you. It was an honor.
So as I said, this is bittersweet because we say goodbye, but we also say hello to 3 new Board of Education reps, and they're come up now to introduce themselves and tell you what they're excited about doing. Oh, I'm sorry. We also have Sam. She's old. Go ahead, Sam. She's staying with us.
Yeah, hi, I'm Samaria Williams. I was here last year. I was a junior, but now I'm a senior now, so I'm just excited to see what this year holds for us and excited to work with my new board members.
Hi, I'm Titus. I'm a rising junior, and I'm excited to be involved in the school and the community.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mahir. I'm a rising junior as well, and I'm really excited to learn more about just the board and education as a whole, and also just meeting new people.
Congratulations, Kate, Ashita, and Thomas, and welcome, Kate, Ashita, and Thomas, and welcome, Titus and Mahir. We also have 2 additional new board reps joining us that are already enjoying their summer break. Hopefully they will be here at our July meetings, and that is Maria and Lily, and that gives us, I believe, 2 seniors and 3 juniors that will be joining us next year. So we're excited about the new things to come.
I'd just like to take a minute to thank and congratulate our seniors who are leaving us. It's been a great experience. We appreciate you being here. And obviously for our returning students, we look forward to working with you over the next year. So welcome.
Ms. Sauber, Treasurer's Report and 5-year forecast.
Good evening, everyone. I still request a position change on the agenda because it's really hard to follow up all of that good stuff that's happening. So May is always 5-year forecast time, and so this evening I'm going to give you kind of an overview of the 5-year forecast that's on the agenda for review tonight. We're going to talk again about the levy cycle and just kind of what is to come over the next couple of months. So the 5-year forecast in May is the second required filing with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. We approved the last forecast back in November, submitted by November 30th, and now this revision is due by May 31st. Many of the things on the forecast stay in place because not a whole lot changes from one year to the next, but this is a particular year where we did have more that changed. And so I just want to, before I show you a few numbers, I do want to go over kind of what went into the number revisions. So the first thing is we have talked ad nauseum for a year about property taxes and the reappraisal process. And so all of the effective rates and the property value changes that were finalized in December have been incorporated into these numbers, and we've updated the fiscal year 24 revenue collections to actual numbers because we've completed collecting tax revenue for 2024. There's a slight increase in our state aid for restricted revenues. There's unrestricted money, which is the majority of what we do get from the state, but there's small portions of restricted funds. And the purpose of that came to us in 2024 is to help offset some of the instructional materials that we have associated with the implementation of the Science of Reading mandate. And so our curriculum department is in the process of looking through and reviewing the different options that are available. The Department of Education and Workforce, they put out a list of curriculums, and so they're evaluating that right now. And I'm sure at some future meeting we're going to hear all about that. But for tonight, just know that I've updated the revenue pieces and the expenses for next year to incorporate purchase of those instructional materials for Science of Reading. There's also stipends for teachers that will be worked into the forecast at some point, but really that's just an offset that what we do pay out to teachers, we will receive back in a reimbursement from the state. So that will be an offset in terms of costs. We have, in these numbers on the expense side of things, we have included the reduction to salaries and benefits for the implementation of the reduction plan that we've been talking about for many months. And we continue to have changes and resignations and you know things are changing all of the time in the staffing, but we do have those pieces factored in. There's also these numbers also reflect the approval that's on your agenda tonight for the CCTA agreement with the Centerville Classroom Teachers Association. Mr. Wesney is going to go over that a little bit more after we get done talking about the 5-year forecast here. So he'll be able to address more of those questions at that point. And then we've made some changes to our department budgets, one of which I already mentioned in terms of curriculum purchases. Inflation is always a factor. We're always looking at what's happening on the inflationary side of things. And then we have some services that we think are coming for some of our students with disabilities, and so we've had to add a little bit to our budget for those types of expenses. So we're still fleshing all of that out. We work on the budget for several months, but for today, as we know it today, these numbers reflect some of those changes. So that's a lot of changes for May. We usually don't see this many changes, but we've had a lot going on over the last few months. So this is a very, very condensed on the slide of the 5 years of the 5-year forecast. I did put in front of you the actual hard copy that will be submitted to ODE. It'll be available in about 48 hours because I'll submit this tomorrow and it'll be available the next day for the public to see. But you can see I pulled out just, we talk about deficit spending and are we operating at a surplus or are we operating at a deficit? And so factoring in all of these changes, we are still operating at a deficit in the current year and in the future years as well. And you can see the bottom line there as our cash balance as of June 30th. That continues then to go down as we deficit spend. We use up those reserves and deficit spend. I will make note though that out in fiscal year 2028, which is the farthest out, that number was a negative $15 million. Back in November. And so all the combination of some of the things that I talked about tonight have improved our financial position, not to the point to where we're not deficit spending, unfortunately, but just the reduction plan by itself, we've reduced $3 million a year out of 25, 26, 27, and 28. And so obviously that is going to have a big impact on the numbers. So again, the 5-year forecast is on your agenda for approval tonight. The other thing I want to just touch on, because I think it's important, and I think the question keeps coming up, is you have $30 million in the bank at the end of the year, and we do, and that is a large sum of money. But when you look at that in relation to what our total budget is, that is what this graphic on the next slide shows. Centerville is the blue line, okay, and that is our cash balance as a percentage of total expenses. So I just think it's important that the board knows and that the community knows that our cash balance is, from a percentage standpoint, is much lower than Montgomery County, which is, I believe, in the red, and then all traditional schools in Ohio, which is the green line. And so, again, yes, we have that carryover balance, but as a percentage, it's much lower than what our surrounding districts and from a statewide look. This particular graph is historical, so it's based on actual numbers. This is what ODE provides. It won't get updated until everyone has filed a November forecast next fall, and so these are the numbers that we have from a historical perspective. And so I think that it's just important that we realize that cash balance, we depend on it, it's important, but it's not excessive. From my perspective, it's not excessive. So changing gears just a little bit to talk, we obviously have had 2 levy failures this year, November and March. This slide was in the May presentation last year, and I've added the very last 2 points to it, and I haven't updated a thing because it's kind of timeless. It really doesn't change. And so why do schools continue to have to ask for new operating monies regularly? House Bill 920, we talked about House Bill 920. And so our value went up, and we did get a little bit of additional revenue from inside millage, but the majority of that tax base, our effective rates reduced, and we continue to collect the same amount on the older voted levies. So that's one reason. State funding is relatively flat. Mrs. Swan and I were talking about state funding earlier, and for 20 years, our state funding has been between $12 and $14 million. It changes slightly one year to the next. Like this year, we got the restricted revenue for the instructional materials, but we won't get that next year. So we are solidly and squarely on a guarantee. Centerville Schools, under the current funding formula, is not going to get additional revenue. And so, and it's only 11% of our total revenue. So state funding is not helping us. And then the last reason is just inflation. Costs just go up. We rarely see decreases in costs. And so that's the other reason why schools just in general have to continuously go back to voters to ask for additional money. So, and then I listed for you sorry. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we can add that. Yeah. Yes. But yes, to your point, we have unfunded mandates all the time that we have to comply with. And then just, our levy history, obviously I'm going to work from the bottom, but, March of 24 and November of 23, we asked for additional, this would have been an additional tax. Those were not successful. May of 22, we did renew the emergency levy that is out there. And so that was successful back in May of 22. But the last additional ask for operating funds was passed in November of 2019. And you've all seen this chart. We've looked at this over and over. We're at a 6-year window again. Okay, so from that, if you look back from 2013 to 2019, that was a 6-year look. And as you can see, those percentages of cash balances were much higher than where we've been over the last 6 years. And so we're going to be 6 years again at best. before we see additional revenue come into the district. We do not have a recommendation tonight as far as what and how much to be back on the ballot for, but I know Mr. Westney and I talked today and feel confident saying that our recommendation is going to be back on the ballot in November. And so I've given you a little bit of a timeline here. We're in May. June and July, we will have several opportunities to approve those resolutions that are necessary or to recommend and to bring to you those resolutions for approval at both the June regular meeting, and then we have the July work session, the July regular meeting, and we can always have a special meeting if it's necessary, just from a discussion standpoint and from a timing standpoint. But the resolutions and the certificate with the county auditor have to be filed by August 7th. And so that, like I said, just to give you a little bit of an idea on the timeline, that's where we're at this evening.
So, Ms. Sauber, just to talk a little bit about the recent history and the timeline. It was this time last year in May, we had the first proposal of 5.9 operating mill levy, or 6.9, I believe it was, that was the request. So the timeline is very similar to where we were last year at this time, thinking about the process of being back on the ballot in November. So we're there. We've talked about in our work session that we really want to talk next month about what that may look like and what we may want to go back and ask for. We're continuously, or we're still deficit spending, as you pointed out. And so we feel like we're probably in a good spot from our timeline from last year and the conversation we had about being back on the ballot. So I know next month we want to spend a lot of time with the board in the work session, regular meeting, talk about what that would actually be to be back on the ballot in November.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
When you talk about deficit spending, I know you showed that.
No. No, I mean, no. Yes, and so it's, but, and to take that one step further, districts that receive higher percentages of state funding stay off the ballot longer because they receive additional state funding and state dollars. And when there are some increases and changes to the state funding formula, because they're not on a guarantee, they do receive additional dollars from that. There are districts in our area that saw large increases. Huber Heights, I think, was one, and Northmont, I think, was one. They saw actual increases to their state funding because of changes good changes. Like I said, when I take my Centerville hat off and just put public education hat on, they've made great strides with the funding formula, but it doesn't help districts like Centerville because of the high wealth and high property value that we have here. So districts that are similar to us are on the ballot every 3, 4, 5 years. Back asking because they're not seeing those increases in state funding. Number one, they don't get as much state funding from a percentage standpoint, and then they don't see the increases because they're typically on a guarantee. So yes, just to elaborate a little further on what you said, that those are the reasons why. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. So tonight, I'd like to provide some information in regards to a contract summary. Laura Sahlberg mentioned it in her report. I was going to speak a little bit about the Classroom Teachers Association agreement. So I want to share some information because later on the agenda, I'm going to ask the board to approve some of our changes into our agreement to move forward. For our public to know, our current contract with the Teachers Association expires on June 30th. We've been working very hard with the Teachers Association since early January. We met several times throughout the year, and just recently we've been able to come to an agreement to be able to present this resolution to the board over the last couple weeks. So first of all, I just want to take a few minutes to really thank and acknowledge our partnership with our teachers. I think this agreement highlights a strong partnership between the Board of Education and our dedicated staff as we work together to provide a high-quality education for all of our students while helping to reduce the district's deficit spending. It's been a challenge, as you can imagine, going through contract negotiations. We've had 2 failed levies, which made some of our conversations very difficult, but I appreciate the fact of being able to work with our teachers and the partnership that has been provided. Salary provisions in the new contract. The contract stipulates a 0% increase to the base salary for all district employees for the next 2 years. It does include a 1% non-reoccurring stipend, which will be up to a max of $1,000. That is not added to the base salary, so there will be no change to the base salary, and modifications are made to the teacher's salary schedule with longevity steps to continue to honor those that you've seen tonight have worked in the district for many years. Professional development was a key area for both the administration and the Teachers Association. Enhanced professional development opportunities are included to empower our educators with the latest instructional strategies, ultimately benefiting student and learning outcomes. This gives us an opportunity to work throughout the school year, during the year with our staff, versus pulling a lot of our staff out of buildings to do training, which is a cost savings for us when it comes to substitute costs and trying to pull out entire band levels of grades of staff to go through some of that professional development and that training. So with that, created a few challenges or changes to our calendar. You have a copy of the 2024-25 district calendar. It's a draft. Adjustments to the academic calendar have been made to help reduce substitute teacher costs, as I just mentioned, and to ensure continuity in our classrooms with the additional PD. So I'm just sharing the changes with the draft of this calendar with you tonight. You can also have, or you'll have attached to that, the 25-26 district calendar as a draft as well. And I'm going to ask for the board to approve those calendar changes next month at a regular meeting. And then school safety is just another highlight. We've had a lot of conversations in regards to school safety. It's just an additional layer of safety and security. A new Safe Schools Committee will be established. I plan to lead that with our staff and with our teachers. This committee will include input from our educators and is dedicated to ensuring safe and supportive learning environments for all of our staff and students across the district. So we're excited to be able to bring to you on the agenda a resolution to approve the new contract starting in July 1st for 2 years as we move forward. So any questions for me in regards to the contract?
Great job by both administration and the CCTA, and I need to thank Brian for his efforts on that. And just again, to reemphasize, 0% increase this year, 0% increase the following year. So despite the fact that I think our teachers do a tremendous amount of work and deserve it, they see the reality. And again, despite the cutbacks that we've made, they're still putting an effort out there. So 0-0 for 2 years. That's commendable. And I think everyone on this board appreciates it more than anyone knows.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to Treasurer's recommendations. Item 1, consider approving the April 2024 financial statements, including the monthly general fund rolling report, monthly cash reconciliation, monthly fund activity report, then and now purchase orders, approved by administration, certified by the treasurer, and supported by board resolution totaling $12,097.78. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving the minutes of the following Board of Education meetings: April 22nd, 2024 regular meeting, May 7th, 2024 special meeting, and May 20th, 2024 work session.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider approving the 5-year forecast and assumptions for fiscal years 2024 through 2028 for submission to the Ohio Department of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion regarding Ms. Sauber's presentation? Questions? Great. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. The superintendent recommendations. Superintendent recommends accepting resignations as listed on Schedule A. Superintendent recommends the employment or change of employment status for the support staff personnel listed on Schedule C for the salaries, programs, and on the effective dates given. The superintendent recommends the employment of the personnel listed on Schedules D and D1 for supplemental contracts or extra duty assignments. And the superintendent recommends the granting of leaves of absence for the personnel listed on Schedule E for the reason and on the dates given.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Consider a resolution approving the Americana Festival Committee fireworks event celebrating the 4th of July, insurance and hold harmless agreement as previously discussed. We have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Wesley, would you or Mr.
Sure,
Coble?
I'll be happy to talk a little bit about this. Every year for the 4th of July festival here in Centerville, Washington Township, we always ask the board to consider a hold harmless agreement with the Americana Festival Committee. That's for the entire day, for the parade that takes place that's staged here, the 5K race that takes place early that morning, and then obviously the fireworks that take place the night of July the 3rd. So this use of our facilities allows the Americana Festival Committee to use our facilities on both those days for the festival.
Any questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. The superintendent recommends the board approve a resolution ratifying the collective bargaining agreement between the Centerville Board of Education and the Centerville Classroom Teachers Association for a term of July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2026. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Abstain. Superintendent recommends the board approve the resolution attached to the agenda as outlining provisions for pay and benefits to non-bargaining unit classified employees and administrators of the Centerville City School District Board of Education for the period July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2026.
So moved. Second.
Any additional discussion?
Just the district has had a long history of offering some of the same benefits to our non-union employees, our classified staff, and that's why it's on the agenda to be able to share that negotiated agreement with our classified folks as we move forward.
They get zeros too, huh?
Mm-hmm. And the benefits that are continue
understand.
part of the package, yes.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Abstain. Consider a resolution approving the updated preschool job descriptions to meet recent Department of Children and Youth requirements as previously discussed. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Tammy's
not here. This was discussed last
It's
week
previously
at our work
discussed
session.
at our work session. It's changes from the Department of Children and Youth. We had to update our job descriptions for our preschool staff, and that's why it's listed on the agenda, those changes.
All right, thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Any final comments regarding pastoral business from the Board of Education?
I just want to say one thing about tonight. I don't want anyone here leaving thinking that our children are at risk in these buildings from our one speaker. Our Washington Township Centerville Fire Department comes in twice a year to do inspections and fire inspections, and there have been no code violations on those things. So updates certainly can be made, but just so everyone understands that the fire department comes in twice a year and does inspections, no code violations.
I have a comment I'd like to make too. I know we've talked about the agreement we have with our CCTA, and it's important to understand what that kind of does for them. So they ran some numbers last time. For a teacher that makes $50,000 a year, if they got a 2% increase, that's $1,500, right? Times $1,500 would be 1%. 2% would be $3,000. If you do that for the next year, 2%, that would be added on. That's what the compounding is. So those teachers are giving up that money, not only for those 2 years, for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years. That didn't include the compounding that would be on that. As inflation would go up, it'd be compounding because it goes up and up. So they've made a great sacrifice, not only for them, it applies to all of our other employees as well. So the sacrifice they're making is to continue to work, continue to do the great job they're doing, continue to make sure we have excellent. And now we're going to have to go to the community. The community has to understand it's not our staff's job to pay for the education of our children. It's the community's job. The community has to now step up and make sure that they're doing their jobs to educate the children of our community. It's not the job of our staff. They've made a great stride in doing that. We really appreciate everything they're doing. We appreciate all the effort they made. But the community now has to follow up and do what they need to do to educate the children, their children of our community.
I'd just like to take a minute and congratulate the retiring teachers that we honored earlier, our student board reps who have graduated and are leaving us, and really the entire staff and community, from the graduates to our classroom staff to our administrative staff. We've all, I think, been running a marathon for the month of May, and we made it, and we've got the new contract to show for it. We've got our wonderful graduating class and everything, so I just want to extend congratulations to all of those involved in all of those parts of our organization.
And I have one announcement just to make. So a lot of you, when you came in tonight, you noticed a lot of new construction or some construction signs, a lot of changes with our HVAC project here at the high school. A lot of it you don't see in here. Most of it is upstairs. Much needed change in some of our ductwork. But our future meetings will not be in the South Commons. We'll be actually in the Central Theater, both June's work session and June's regular board meeting, as well as July's work session and July's regular board meeting. So the next 2 months, all of our meetings will be in the Central Theater, right down the hallway. You can't miss it. So just stay tuned for those changes as we move forward. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Dahl?
Yes.
Dr. Graff?
Yes.
Dr. Rohr?
Yes.
Megan Sparks?
Yes.
Mrs. Dernbaugh?
Yes. Thank you all for coming.